Hey guys, Michael here from Chase and Gather. I'm going to be talking today around mobility work using the foam roller and how we can sort of use this tool or self-massage to help to improve our recovery, performance, flexibility and mobility. So yeah, the whole term foam rolling sort of comes around, I guess, because you're predominantly using foam rollers. There's a whole different range of options that you can use. This one here is EVA, so it's made from EVA foam material. It's a 90 centimetre. This one here is the same material, 45. And this one here I've sort of fashioned up actually just out of some plumbing pipe. And so with the different tools, you also have different densities. So the EVA is, I guess it's sort of a medium density in terms of the material. The pipe is obviously very hard, so depending on how much intensity you want to put into your rolling and how much intensity you want to put into your muscle groups, that will dictate what sort of level of firmness you'll use in your foam roller. If you are starting out with the foam rolling work, I would suggest your EVA material because it has that amount of give in it. I also often use a tennis ball, so if I'm going into the bush or somewhere that I don't have these sort of resources available, take the tennis ball, put it in the backpack, and I use that for rolling out on. So that's a handy little tip. Anyway, so we're going to get into a couple of different exercises. The foam rolling, it's also called myofascial release. So basically that's just a big term for releasing the tension in muscle bellies or in muscle groups. So yeah, myofascial release is the correct term, and we're just going to work through some of the principles around it today. Everyone can tend to do their exercises or their movement patterns a little bit differently, but this is how I do mine. My background is a personal trainer for the past 12 years, and this has worked for me. So I'll show you some of the stuff that I use, and hopefully you can incorporate it into your programming or your conditioning where you can. It doesn't replace stretching, so stretching is definitely something that you should continue to do as well. It's sort of a complementary part of that maintenance or improvement for mobility recovery. So in terms of the frequency of using the foam rollers and doing some foam rolling sessions, depends on the frequency and the intensity of your workouts really, but I'd probably do 4 to 5 sessions a week on the foam roller, and those would generally be between 5 to 10 minutes a time. With the foam rollers as well, a lot of the focus is around the lower body, so you're basically using your own body weight to apply pressure down into that foam roll to give yourself a self-massage. So yeah, the whole term foam rolling sort of comes around, I guess, because you're predominantly using foam rollers. There's a whole different range of options that you can use. This one here is EVA, so it's made from EVA foam material. It's a 90 centimetre. This one here is the same material, 45. And this one here I've sort of fashioned up actually just out of some plumbing pipe. And so with the different tools, you also have different densities. So the EVA is, I guess it's sort of a medium density in terms of the material. The pipe is obviously very hard, so depending on how much intensity you want to put into your rolling and how much intensity you want to put into your muscle groups, that will dictate what sort of level of firmness you'll use in your foam roller. If you are starting out with the foam rolling work, I would suggest your EVA material because it has that amount of give in it. I also often use a tennis ball, so if I'm going into the bush or somewhere that I don't have these sort of resources available, take the tennis ball, put it in the backpack, and I use that for rolling out on. So that's a handy little tip. Anyway, so we're going to get into a couple of different exercises. The foam rolling, it's also called myofascial release. So basically that's just a big term for releasing the tension in muscle bellies or in muscle groups. So yeah, myofascial release is the correct term, and we're just going to work through some of the principles around it today. Everyone can tend to do their exercises or their movement patterns a little bit differently, but this is how I do mine. My background is a personal trainer for the past 12 years, and this has worked for me. So I'll show you some of the stuff that I use, and hopefully you can incorporate it into your programming or your conditioning where you can. It doesn't replace stretching, so stretching is definitely something that you should continue to do as well. It's sort of a complementary part of that maintenance or improvement for mobility recovery. So in terms of the frequency of using the foam rollers and doing some foam rolling sessions, depends on the frequency and the intensity of your workouts really, but I'd probably do 4 to 5 sessions a week on the foam roller, and those would generally be between 5 to 10 minutes a time. With the foam rollers as well, a lot of the focus is around the lower body, so you're basically using your own body weight to apply pressure down into that foam roll to give yourself a self massage. So cool, so we'll get started. I'm just going to use our 45 and then we'll move on to using the pipe a little bit later and potentially using that ball as well at some stage. Alright, so how you want to set up, I like to use a mat. Otherwise, if you've got underlay and nice carpet, happy days. I don't in here, so we're going to work with what we've got. So we're going to start with the foam roller just above the ankle there. Just going to do one leg at a time. Lift the hips up, and we're slowly going to move that body weight down and back. So you're going to start off with quite long strokes to begin with. You can see that we're just using this leg here to prop ourselves up. So with that leg, we can actually control how much intensity is being put onto that calf. So if we want to take extra pressure, we can take one across the top and we can roll through there. That's it. Okay. Once we've done that, we just want to move that foam roll and position it probably sort of 2/3 of the way down the calf. Same thing as before, work all the way up, and we'll just go to just below the knee. We're going to go quite long strokes to start with. If that foam roll starts to walk away, just pull it back in. What we can do here as well, we can start to pivot or rotate that leg. So we can start to move more into what are called the peroneal muscles, which are the lateral muscles of the leg. So you can put some pressure into them. Other way, you can get more into the insides as well. So it's a case of just manipulating the angles as you go. And if you find any tender spots after you've been doing those longer sort of effleurage strokes, you can just start to focus on the tight areas and just work a little bit smaller, shorter range of motion. When you're breathing as well, make sure you're doing some longer breaths. That helps to release some of that muscle tension a little bit better. Then we'll do the same on this other leg. Start down the bottom. Start with the longer strokes. Okay, and we can rotate that leg to get more into the sides, or we can come more into the middle, more on that medial calf. That's it there. Okay, once we've done some longer strokes there, just move that roller up a little bit higher, come right into the meat of the muscle, and then we'll work to just below the knee joint. Cool, there's another effective way that you can also target those lower calves if you are really feeling some consistent tightness in those lower calves. You can just get the foam roller, sit it here, and then literally put your body weight down. You can just rest here. So even if you're in a meeting or something like that, or there's a conversation, get the foam roller out, make the most of it, and just that pressure, that body weight pressure into the lower calves is doing a bit of massage work there for you. You can gradually just move it further up towards the middle of those calves. So that gravity, all that gravity that's coming down is giving us that resistance that we need to get that weight into the calves. Like so. So we've got a muscle group which runs down the front of the shin here. So that's predominantly a muscle group called tibialis anterior, and that particular muscle group takes a lot of shock when we're running or when you're doing a lot of downhill walking with load. So what we can do here, just one leg at a time, just applying that downward pressure into that muscle group. Once again, we're trying to go for a nice long stroke on these to start with. You want to always remember to breathe as well. So generally when the muscle's coming under tension or there's a tight spot, you want to try and breathe out. So there's a bit of tension here. So I'm just going to sort of do some small movements backwards and forwards there and just really focus on the breathing. So that's tibialis anterior, and of course we would jump across and we'll do it on the other side. So that's all cool. So we have done the tibialis anterior, we have done the gastrocnemius, and we've done the soleus, so the calves and the front. Now we're going to move on to the thigh or the quads and the hip flexors. So same concept, we're going to do one side at a time. One side at a time is really effective because you can really focus on getting the angle and the depth or the intensity into each muscle group. Sometimes when you're doing two legs at the same time, you can't quite get that same manipulation or that angle of attack into a muscle group. So one leg at a time is my favourite way to do it. Okay, we're going to get ourselves almost into a front plank, but we're going to sit that foam roll just above the knee there. Well, what we're going to do there for this is we're going to have one leg splayed out to the side, that's our support leg, and then we're going to bring those elbows back so we can control the amount of flexion we can get there. So once again, rolling the full length or as far as we can to the top, so we don't actually go over the knee joint. We'll always stop before a joint. Okay, so we'll just roll out again as far as we can and pull ourselves forward again. Okay, so at the moment I'm trying to do the anterior part of the muscle group, not the lateral or the medial. So pretty straight, hips are quite square. And we're getting a good range of motion there. Okay, nice long strokes. The focus for the quads is that we're sort of doing the lower 2/3 to 80% of the quad region. We'll move into the hip flexors very soon. So down to above the knee, back again. So that's effectively the quadricep from the top of the knee, probably 2/3 or 80% of the way. Next step is to try and hit this bit from the top of the hip to that sort of 2/3 mark. So those are our hip flexors. So we're going to position that foam roll about 2/3 of the way up the thigh, and we're just working a short range of motion for those hip flexors. Now what we can do here is we can start to manipulate the angle of the hip. So we're quite square at the moment, but we can actually start moving into a little bit of rotation. Full range of motion through here. It's also important that with that leg that we are working, that we are actually relaxing it and not tensing it up. We want it relaxed. So it should drag along the ground. The next stage is to try and get a little bit more rotation or a little bit more lateral angle into that thigh. Now, a lot of people talk about the IT band. So the IT band is the iliotibial band. It's a very strong fibrous band of material. Many people can experience some pain across the top of that knee joint there. That's called a runner's knee. So essentially, among a few other things, the IT band can become too tight and it causes a lot of friction and rubbing across the top of a bursa, which is a fluid-filled sac underneath the tendon, and that gets inflamed and gets very painful. So we're looking at targeting that lateral aspect of the quad now. So the same concept applies. We'll get our roll here. Now this one you probably don't want to use the most firm roll possible. You want to start off with one which is softer. So the foam roll is the perfect one for this. So we're jumping onto our side in this instance. And once again, what we can do, because the IT band can be quite painful, we can target and isolate one leg. Okay? So how that works. Got this back leg here, this is supporting us. Okay, so this will give us lift, and that means we can alter the amount of pressure that we have on this leg here. So we'll slide that in under there. Same thing, same principle. We're going to try and get some nice long strokes through here. Remember, try and relax your thigh. The idea is to be rolling relaxed muscles, not tight muscles or activated muscles. Okay, so nice and long. Let that leg drag. Okay, we don't want to activate those quads. Try not to anyway. They sometimes will, because there is a bit of pressure going through there, and those muscles are wanting to protect. Want to breathe through that. Now we can alter the amount of pressure. If the hips come up, less pressure, let that leg off. We can take that leg off and we can go doubles, but that will increase the intensity that you are feeling on that lateral thigh. We're now going to move into the hamstrings. So the hamstrings are the muscle groups that sit below the back of your thigh. Now you can use the foam roller on the hamstrings, but because the hamstrings generally tend to sit a bit deeper than the quads, it can be difficult to get enough pressure into them. Well, I find that anyway. So your traditional foam rolling, although you can do it, it may work for some people, but it doesn't really work for me. I don't feel that I sort of get enough depth on it, so that's why I got the hacksaw out and trimmed up this pipe. So obviously, being very hard, the density is increased massively. So what we'll do here, just use one leg, and because they sit a bit deeper, I'll generally apply those first few rolls just in a supported position to get that movement happening, and then I'll lift off and I'll get two legs on top. So what we can do from there is increase that pressure on those hamstrings. Now what you can also do if you want to is you can obviously get rid of that foam mat, because that foam mat will be stealing a bit of our resistance. So from here to here, nice and long, as we were before, nice long ones, and then we'll go double up and we'll get more pressure through there now. So essentially the technique is still the same, but we've just changed the tool. So a higher density roller for this one. Okay, and we'll do the same on the other side. So those are our hamstrings. They are hard to hit, but nevertheless, we get them involved as well. Going to move on to the glutes now. The glutes, being one of the largest muscle groups in the body, they have many different functions. So how I like to target them is through just varying the angle that we're going to be using on that foam roller. So we can do some which are fairly straight, so the hips are quite straight on this approach, and then we gradually just start to rotate or camber those hips outwards. So we go from the top of the hip all the way through. We can get quite sideways or quite rotated as well, and that's getting into those external fibres there, which are responsible for abduction. Okay, nice and long, go right through, keep that pressure on, and you will feel those glutes are really being well rolled there. What we can do, of course, as well, is we can shift it up a level, and we can get a bit more density. Okay, so we'll get a bit more direct pressure, into those glutes. So once again, rotate the angle of the body. If you're finding that there's a tender spot, spend a bit of time there. And get some straight ones. Back to the side. Okay, so probably the last area that we'll focus on is the lower, middle and upper back. So take our foam roller, we want to use quite a low density or medium density one on this occasion, and we're just going to lie backwards like that, and then we're going to use a hip bridge to get ourselves up into position here, and then we're just going to slowly walk ourselves down. We're just walking down first, go all the way to the neck, and then we'll just come all the way back, nice and slowly. There's no race. We are using our core a little bit just to keep those hips up off the ground at this stage. Walk, walk, walk. Okay, we get to here. We'll slowly walk ourselves back down. So we generally do 2 rolls all the way to the neck there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is take my arms over the top, hips come up a little bit, and we slowly, slowly, slowly lower those hips down, and then keep our walk on. We just use our hands to guide ourselves back. Now my head is pretty much on the ground. Slowly, slowly, slowly. Okay, that's us there. What I like to do from this position here is just to rotate those legs, move them back and forth. Rotate from one side to the other. Okay. Just through the lower back, gradually get further and further. We want to get to a point where we can hopefully get those thighs, those lateral thighs, to touch the ground. Cool, and then from there, we're just going to walk ourselves back up to that upper body there, and then we're just going to relax. Breath in. Breath out. The way I quite like to finish off, just roll that back, and then from there, we're just going to rotate the head from side to side, and we just get a nice neck massage, which will reach right up into the top of the neck. You just spend a minute or 2 minutes here, rotating from side to side. So it's a really good way, because if you're doing a lot of pack training or you're doing a lot of high volume work, lifting, shrugs, overhead presses, then your traps and your neck muscles are going to become quite tight. Maybe you're trying to relax as well, not trying to be tense, so you know, you can obviously be mindful that everything needs to be relaxed, and that's probably the best place to be. Relax all over. Cool, so we've covered the muscle groups, front of the thigh, calves, we've hit the hamstrings, we've hit the glutes, hit the lateral thigh, we've done the hip flexors, we've also moved into the lower, middle and upper back, and a little bit through the neck as well. So that's a really nice way just to finish a session, and that is an important thing as well to consider when you are doing your foam rolling. Foam rolling can be done at the start of a workout, and it can be successfully used to actually increase your range of motion. You can of course do your foam rolling after a workout, and that's probably when most people do it. The other opportunity to do it is whenever you have time, because the thing with foam rolling and myofascial release is that it works best when you do it frequently. So once a week is probably not enough. A really good time to do it is when the muscle groups are warm. So after your workout, if you have a bath or a shower in the evening, when those muscle groups are nice and warm, that can be a really good way or a really good time to invest in some foam rolling work. Do some foam rolling work for maybe 5 or 10 minutes before you go to bed, and then that way you're going to bed with your muscles in more of a relaxed state. And I think it's a prime window of opportunity to do it at the end of the day, where you can actually just get into a nice routine, and you can do it before bed and get some aspect of relaxation to it as well. So yeah, hopefully that was of use. The tennis ball didn't come out today, but that's effectively used in the same manner. I've seen people use hockey balls as well, but yeah, this comes with me in my pack for all my hunting trips and is a very useful tool to have. Today we didn't use the big 90 centimetre roller, but this one can be effectively used for anything that we have done today. One of the advantages with the 90, I guess, is that you can also do this exercise, which is really good just to relax and lie. So essentially, we're just lying on our back, and it gives us that opportunity to open up the rib cage and just relax everything. So we're relaxing the legs, we're relaxing the arms, and we can literally just lie here for a few minutes. So it gives us that opportunity, opens up the chest, gets those chest muscles open, the pectoralis major, pectoralis minor, opens everything up, gives the deltoids a nice stretch, and we don't have to do anything there, and we're getting a nice stretch. As I said at the start, it's not anything to replace your stretching, your dynamic stretching or your static stretching. It is to complement your flexibility stretching work. So this will help to improve your recovery and ultimately your performance. So use it when and where you can. The frequency is the most important thing. If you can only do 2 or 3 minutes at a time, that's fine. It's a lot better than doing nothing at all. So yeah, give it a go, make it regular, and you will start to see that you will actually make some improvements in your recovery times.